Statements by ministers. The Honourable Minister for the Status of Women.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, it is a great privilege for me to stand here on this traditional Algonquin territory. In 1989, 13 students and an employee were murdered at the Polytechnique in Montreal for the sole reason that they were women.
13 young women and a female administrator at l'École Polytechnique de Montreal were tragically murdered simply because they were women. The shooter walked into the engineering school, walked into the classroom, separated the women from the men, not to spare the women, but because he was directly targeting them as feminists. 28 years later, Canadians continue to come together to remember and to mourn this tragic loss. Today, from coast to coast to coast, candles will be lit, roses will be laid, tears will be shed, as the names of these 14 young women remind us that gender-based violence is still a reality for far too many. The shocking impact of the Montreal massacre shook our country. It mobilized Canadians and it led Parliament to designate December 6th as a day to remember the potential we lost in these young women. This day annually falls during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. It starts with the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women on November 25th and ends with the International Human Rights Day on December 10th. Today, the names of these 14 young women will be echoed across the country. Aujourd'hui, nous honorons.
Today, we honor these 14 women who were taken away from us in cold blood and taken away from their loved ones.
En 1904.
In 1989. Geneviève Bergeron.
Nathalie Croteau. Barbara Degnaud. Anne-Marie Edward. Maud Aviarnik. Marie Lajanière, Maryse Leclerc, Anne-Marie Lemay, Sonia Pelletier, Michelle Richard, Annie Saint-Arnaud, Annie Turcotte, and Barbara Kluznik-Vidayevich. Today we recognize the ongoing tragic impacts of gender-based violence, honor those victims whose names and stories we may never know, and families and communities devastated by these tragedies. To those who are still vulnerable, such as members of LGBTQ2 communities, Indigenous women and girls, newcomers, women with disabilities and exceptionalities, we will not tolerate discrimination and violence. To those Canadians who lost someone on December 6th, to survivors and families of those impacted by gender-based violence, we know that these senseless murders have their roots in misogyny and have placed feminism under attack. And yet they've contributed to this moment in our history when feminism is something of which we are proud. While we cannot change the story of those 14 young women, we remember them, and we reaffirm our resolve to do better and to be better for women and girls with us today and tomorrow. We know there is still much work to do. The need is made evident through the recent Me Too movement. But there is hope. Il y a de l'espoir.
There is hope.
Future where we are all respected, where violence is not accepted, where women and girls are secure with choices and opportunities to pursue their dreams. To support this vision, our government is working with Canadians to build an inclusive, respectful society by stepping up and speaking out to stop gender-based violence. We thank those who mobilize, who provide support, healing, shelter, and much-needed advocacy. We invite Canadians to share what they will do to end this violence by using the hashtag #MyActionsMatter and to take the pledge that 38,000 voices have taken to date to help end gender-based violence. We are acting through the first federal strategy to address and prevent gender-based violence, the challenging but important work of a national inquiry into what happened to our stolen sisters, a national housing strategy that recognizes that housing is a social determinant of violence, and investment in shelter spaces across the country. We each have a responsibility to stand up against misogyny, sexism, and hate. And it starts by creating a culture of respect. This means engaging everyone, including men and boys. Together, we can honor the lives lost on December 6, 1989, by working to prevent this violence before we begin. There are white roses on desks of MPs in this House. And I hope you get one too, Mr. Speaker, because these roses are symbols of the actions and the power each of us have, not just inside this House, but outside, to be part of the solution. And we are living in important times. Every day, every week, as recently as this week, survivors of gender-based violence are coming together, speaking as one, standing shoulder to shoulder. They are finding their voice and their courage through one another, and to them we say, thank you. We believe you, and we will stand with you always. Today we mark our country's enduring connection to 14 women who were silenced while pursuing their dreams. We cannot change their story, but we can honor their memory and ensure that every Canadian woman and girl has the opportunity to pursue her dreams without the threat of gender-based violence. Merci.